Hey guys, today we're going to look at writing linear equations. So whenever it tells us to write a linear equation, first thing you should do on your paper, write down the point slope formula. That is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. This is an extremely important form of the linear equation. You will need to remember this form. I'm not going to give it to you, so memorize it. You'll see it a lot on the ACT as well. So let's see what's going on here. It's the point slope formula. It's really a form, but anyway. Slope, obviously, is m. Now the point comes from x1 and y1. X and y without subscripts stay x and y. So whenever we're using this, we're going to rewrite everything. So y minus, oh, I forgot. This is an x, y ordered pair, right? So this is x1 and y1. There we go. And it gives us m. So I'm going to say minus 7, because that's y1, equals negative 4 times x minus, and then x1, negative 1. Now, you may want to put everything that you plug in parentheses, like I've suggested many times before. That way you don't mess up with the double negative here. So if we do this, we are actually done with the formula. This is correct. This is the slope, this is the equation, this line right here. But we can rearrange it. A lot of times we need to rearrange it for either standard form or slope-intercept form. So let's do that now, just to get some practice. That's going to be y minus 7 equals negative 4x. Now here, I've got 1, 2, 3 negatives. That's going to be negative 4. Add 7 to both sides, and we get y equals negative 4x plus 3. So typically, I'm going to want you to take it from point slope form, either write it in slope intercept form, or add 4x to both sides, standard form. And I'll be specific when I tell you which form I want it in. So I'll either tell you, find the equation line and put it in slope intercept form, find the equation line and put it in standard form. Okay. So let's do this again. This time we have our points point x1, y1 here. Our slope is 2/3. Y minus negative 5 equals m times x minus x1. And again, I'm just going to put this in slope-intercept form. That's 2 negatives, makes it positive. Y plus 5 equals 2/3 x. And then I have 2 negatives, that's going to make a positive. 2/3 of 6 is 4. So now to put it in slope-intercept, we need to subtract 5 from both sides. All right, to put it in standard form, remember for standard form, we need to first get it in the right order. So I need to get x's first. So if I want it to be positive as well, so I'm actually going to move the y and the 1. So I'm going to subtract y from both sides. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Y minus y is nothing, plus 1 is 1. And actually, I want that in no other order, don't I? So I'm going to start with the 2/3 x. And then minus y, so we have no y's over here, so minus y. There's our 1. So this side would have been 1, this side would have been 2/3 x minus y. I rearranged it so that it was in the proper order. Under standard form, first thing you want to take care of is the order. After that, make sure the A is positive. It is. Now let's clear our fractions. Multiply through by our LCD, which is 3 in this case, and multiply each one of these by 3. I'm going to get 2x minus 3y equals 3. Check for GCF, 2 and 3, nada. So this would be standard form here. So the new piece was just writing the equation from the information. So this and this, we're using this form right here, slope-intercept, or point-slope form. So that's the only new bit. Let's try an example where we have just 2 points. So remember, we need the slope formula. And that does come right from our point-slope form. If we rearrange this, solve for m, just divide through both sides by x minus x1. So I don't like how this is presented, so I'm just going to overwrite it. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Again, you need to know your forms of your equations and your slope formula. So we're going to use this to find m. Then we're going to play eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick a point, and shove that and the slope we got into our point slope form. I need a little more space. I'm just do 3 and 4. M equals, let's do that first. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If the negatives are giving you trouble, stick everything in parentheses. Put parentheses here, 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 and here. That way you'll see like, oh yeah, I'm subtracting. What am I subtracting? I'm subtracting a negative 6. Now, if you're fluent enough, you don't need these parentheses. You can just write it out without the parentheses. And then I'd highly advise using your calculator. 7 minus 1 is 6. Negative 3 minus a negative 6 is 3. And that simplifies to 2. So our slope is 2. Now we need our point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So you need to be familiar with it. Go ahead, just get in the habit of writing it down every single problem, and eventually remember it. Y minus, oh, which one's the y1? Doesn't matter, pick one. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Well, they both have a negative. Okay, I'm gonna use this one, it's got a 1. I like 1s better. So I'm using this point here. You could have used that point there, it does not matter. Equals 2 times x minus, now since I chose the 1, I must choose this negative 6. And again, you can put that in parentheses. And it doesn't specify how to write it. We're just going to go to slope-intercept form. That's more useful. It's good if we need to graph it. 2 times x is 2x. We've got 2 negatives, that's going to make a positive. 2 times 6 is 12. And then we just add 1 to both sides, and we get y equals 2x plus 13. Okay. I'll do another example. So here, we're given these 2 points. First thing we need to do is find our slope. Y2 minus y1. And again, it doesn't matter which point is number 2 and which point is number 1. It'll be the same result either way. So I'm going to say 8 minus a negative 2, a little bit lag there, negative 6 minus negative 2. And again, if you're not comfortable, put it in parentheses. Definitely use a calculator. That's going to be 10 over negative 4. It's going to be negative 5 halves. Doesn't matter where you put the negative. Put it on the top, bottom, or in the middle. Does not matter. We do need to simplify it. So again, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug it in, plug it in. Well, these are both negative 2, so I'll do that. Why not? Again, aren't doing well with these negatives, put parentheses. If you're fluent, you can drop them, it's fine. So I got 2 negatives here, that makes that a positive 2. Negative 5 halves times x is negative 5 halves x. Negative 5 halves times negative 2. Well, let's count the negatives. 1, 2, 3. That's an odd number, so that's going to be negative. 5 halves times 2 is 5. There, I just need to subtract 2 from both sides. Y equals negative 5 halves x minus, and that's negative 5 minus 2, 7. All right, so there's a couple examples. So that's how we use our point slope form. So let's recap real quick. We've got slope intercept form. That is y equals mx plus b. M is slope, b is y-intercept. We use it for graphing. All right. We have our standard form. Ax plus by equals c. There is some manipulations we can do here to get our x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. I'll go ahead and tell you. So m, I'm actually going to write this out. So in standard form, we need to rearrange it to solve for y, right? That'll give us our slope. If I do that, it's negative a over b. Now, you do not have to remember this. You can always just rearrange it for here and you're good to go. But if you want a shortcut, here it is. So the x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y. If we do that, that would be c over a. Y-intercept, plug in 0 for x. That would be c over b. So it does give you the key pieces of information pretty much immediately, but it requires some remembering or thinking either way. So mostly we just use this because it looks pretty and it's useful for systems. We'll talk about those shortly. Now our new equation, point slope form. Sorry. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x. That's not x1. There we go. And is slope x1 y1, not y1, y1. There we go. Is a point long. It's useful for writing equations of the line. So if we need to write an equation, we use this guy. If we need to graph it, we want to put it like this. If we want it to look pretty, or if we're dealing with systems, we're going to put it this way. All right. Hang on a second. And I'm back. Sorry about that. All right. Where was it? Okay. So yeah, that's our three forms of a linear equation: slope-intercept form, standard form, and point-slope form. They all have their different uses, and depending on what you're doing, you want it in one form or another. So here we go. Application problem. So we're given a word problem and we need to create our own equation. So this is pretty key here. So let's read what's going on. A cab ride costs $4 plus $1.75 per mile driven. Okay, so it's a flat $4 and it's $1.75 per mile. So what is my function going to be based on? It's going to be based on how many miles we go, right? And what is it going to give me? It's going to give me the cost. So we want our variables to make sense. So here's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the cost equation. So I'm going to call it C of, what am I plugging in here? Miles. So C of M. That's going to be my equation. And that's going to equal $4. Well, we'll put it in slope-intercept form. Mx, or M, whatever our input is. 1.75, and that's miles, plus B, plus our $4. Let's look at this equation. C of M. So C is our cost. M is the miles. So this is in slope-intercept form. Remember, f of x, c of m, whatever, it doesn't matter what you call it. That is y. That's your output. Y equals, and then we have a number times our variable, mx. In this case, our x is an m, whatever, plus b. So what does that b really mean? B is the y-intercept. So that's the cost if we don't go anywhere. So if you get in the cab and get right back out, you're going to have to give the dude $4. That is how it is. All right. Clay's destination is 17 miles away, and he has $30. Will he make it? Excuse me. So, well, what can we do? We can figure out how far he can go on $30, or we can figure out how much it will cost to go 17 miles. We can do both. Let's do both. So we have our equation. Let's figure out what C of 17 is. What's the cost for 17 miles? And this we're not doing anything with. This is the name of our function. This is our cost. This is our answer. Oops. So let's grab our calculator out of here. 1.75 times 17 plus 4 gives us that $33.75. So the cost for 17 miles is equal to 33.75. Okay, so we can go ahead and answer the question. Is this guy going to make it to his destination? Nah. He's going to be like 2 miles away. He needs more money. All right. Well, another way we could have done it. We've got $30. How far can we go? Let's find out. So if we know we have $30. That's our output. That's our cost. So we plug it in for the cost. And this way we can tell Clay how much money he has to beg for. And it's M. We solve that for M. So if you have this calculator, go ahead and use it. If you don't, solve it. That's basic freaking linear equation. 30 equals 1.75, and we have to plug in x for our variable always. Don't try and plug in anything other than x for your variable in the calculator. Shift calc equals x is that. Let's convert that to, okay. Well, it makes more sense to deal with decimals here. 14.86, we'll say. Well, it's not quite enough for that, so let's say 14.86. But really, how far can you go? You can go no less than 15 miles. Can't get there. Sorry, dude. All right, let's try another one. The Joneses are purchasing a new home. The closing costs are $249 plus 3% of the purchase price of the home. Okay, so what are we dealing with here? The closing costs. So this looks like we're trying to figure out closing costs because it's giving us some information. It's a flat $249 plus an additional 3% of the purchase price. Well, I'm going to call that P, I guess. I'm going to call that C, I guess. Why not? So C of P equals, okay, so we want it in slope-intercept form. So 3%, that is 0.03 as a decimal, plus 249. Okay, if you don't know what 3% is, I'm not sure how to help you. Divide it by 100. That's what percent means, per 100. And here C is closing costs, P is purchase price. Bit of alliteration there. The purchase price of their home is $195,000. The seller offered $5,000 in closing cost assistance. Will this cover all their closing costs? If not, how much will the Jones need to pay out of pocket? So really what we need to do is figure out the closing costs for their home and then figure out if 5K is enough. Let's see. So the purchase price is $195,000. So let's find the closing costs. Plug it in, plug it in. All right, so take your calculator and plug it in. Again, this is our output. We're not plugging in our output. We're plugging in the other side to figure out what our output is. 0.03, 195,000 plus 249 equals $6,099. So will this cover their closing costs? Nope. If not, how much will they need to pay? Well, if the dudes are getting $5,000, they're going to have to come up with $1,099. Okay. All right. So if we're dealing with word problems, sometimes it's useful to put it in slope-intercept form. Sometimes it's more useful to put it in standard form. So Josh bought 3 bags of potting soil and 10 bags of mulch from Home Depot. So we got potting soil and we got mulch. Okay, let's write an equation to represent the total cost. Potting soil, mulch, cost. That's 3 different variables we got going on. Okay, so we know it needs to equal the cost. So if we think about standard form, that's AX plus BY equals C. Now C is the constant. So what 2 things are going to be changing that determine C? potting soil and mulch. That's going to be our X and our Y. C is going to be the cost. So I've got 3 bags of potting soil and 10 bags of mulch. I guess I'll call that S and M. Sure, why not? That's an S, not a 5. So 3S plus 10M equals C, the cost. Let's write down what these variables mean. S is a capital S. Capitalization does matter here. S is the cost per bag of potting soil. And M is the cost per bag of mulch. C will be the total cost. All right. So let's see. Josh spent $40.91. What was that? That's the total cost. And mulch costs $2.75 per bag. What's that? That's the cost of mulch per bag. How much was a bag of potting soil? Well, let's find out. So here's our equation. We're going to plug in this information. So I don't know how much soil costs. So I'm going to leave that as S. 10 times the cost of mulch is $2.75. So I'll put that in there. Equals, well, $40.91. Now we're going to assume this is, before taxes. Because if it was after taxes, then we had to do a lot more work and figure out how much the rate for the taxes, wherever we bought it at, stuff like that. But we're going to assume taxes are later. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 3S plus 2750. Yes, if you have this guy, you can plug it in and be done. I'll do this by hand for those people that are not getting this calculator for some reason. Maybe they don't plan on going to college. That would be a good reason. So then you do 4091 minus 2750 is, so this is one case we do deal with decimals, money. 1341. So 3S equals 1341. So I'm going to divide that by 3. And I get 447. So 1 bag of potting soil costs $4.47. Done. Look at one more example. Kaylee has a collection of quarters and nickels. I'll call that Q and N. Why not? Write an equation to represent the total value, so I'll call that V, of the coins. Oh, how much does a quarter value? A quarter values 25 cents. I'm putting 0.25 because I want the value in dollars, because I don't want the value in cents. I mean, it doesn't specify, but whenever I'm thinking money, I'm thinking dollars, not cents. How much is a nickel worth? 5 cents. So that'd be 0.5, right? Wrong. 0.05. 0.5 would be 50 cents. 0.05 is 5 cents. And we'll put that as B. So Q is number of quarters. N is number of nickels. V is value of the coins, or total value if you want. The total value of the coins is 550. Kali has 17 quarters. How many nickels does she have? Plug in Chud beats. 0.25 times 17 plus 0.05 times n equals 5.50. This time I will use a calculator. For that, 0.25 times 17 plus 0.05 times x. Remember, always x for your variable. Can't use n, can't use anything but x. When you're typing in the calculator, equals 5.5. Put the O on there or not, doesn't matter. Shift calc equals 25. This is what I'm going to need to see. I'm going to need to see the setup and the solution. Now, if you mess up the solution, you better have your work down there so I can give you partial credit. If you don't, no work, no partial credit, for sure. But if you show me the setup and then you show me the solution, we're good. I think that's it. Yeah. All right, so that's it for today. See ya.